It's a lot of mixed signals from this chart, a lot of different energies. So it's a seesaw, but it's not quite a splash. So when you get into these things, you're going to see the different sides and different pieces come up of the person. They're there, but they're noticeable at specific times. But when it comes to himself, he's tough on himself. His identity, he's his own worst master. I can't do this. Can I do this? Do I have to do this? Can I do this? To me, well, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Like, he has that strong confrontation. That's good for personal inner depth and soul searching, but it's not easy in the socializing realm. So his energy, his son, he's out there doing a lot of things, but he's not inclined to necessarily personally want to fit in with the boss or want to fit in and do everything, be at this business meeting or that business meeting. Like, he'll do what he has to do, but he's caught between the home and the work, between needing to do things and having to be responsible to take care of them, and having a mind that says, let's do anything, let's try this, and then how do you live up to it all the time? Oh my goodness. So he's the auditor on his ascendant. And I know this doesn't show that much, but it's just under the surface. If you're talking about what's challenging, confronting, he's, yeah, that's there, he sees it right away, but he's not quick to offer it out. Okay. So projecting his personality is not his strong suit. Being efficient and doing what has to be done, that's his strong suit. That's the sun up in the 10th house, and that he's capable of doing. So every day he has to go out and face the demon or face the struggle or get himself together. They're going to have to deal with this. Yeah. But once he gets dealing with it, he deals with it fine. It's just his personal, even if he's not into it, to do what he has to do. But it can attract conflicts from, like, now that ascendant also does square the Mercury. Yeah. So does the IC. It squares the Mercury. It doesn't square the moon. It squares the Mercury. It squares the Mercury. Doesn't oppose the moon. It squares the Mercury. So again, his mind, his mental decisions of what needs to be done, what has to be accomplished, what has to go. His plans, his game plans, are always confronted by home and family and the needs and the demands they make on his personal self. So he has very high goals. It's difficult to find moments for himself. Again, if he were to get spiritual hobbies or mystical hobbies, this would push his energy very high. But first he's got to get through the family and all these other things. So his need, the moon in the 7th house, to be related, to be married, to be doing things for someone, and then to be showing he can do things, that's a strong basic factor. So he'll put himself aside to have to do whatever has to be done. Okay. The midheaven, we talked a little bit. It's got the Gemini. It's the independent daylight, greater daylight increasing. It's mutable. It's air. It's communicative. Ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is right there in the 10th house, the most elevated planet, the highest planet in the chart. The most elevated. The most elevated is the most prominent. So people will know him around work. He'll be doing things around career, around status. He'll always have an established position. He would have trouble communicating if he weren't working or were at home. Much easier to take care of things. But this Mercury is the conjunction to the midheaven, so his mind is inclined to line up towards career and work and what needs to be done rather than what am I going to do at home. So even though he's motivated by Sag, he's motivated to try and do everything. The Mercury is going to do what he thinks he has to do, what he thinks has to be, and try this, do this, do this. So there's a gap between the time demands on outer world and doing things and how much time you have for oneself. But that's a fairly good thing. It's predominant, but you see him making decisions around career, around work, and it's hard to live up to them. It's hard. You can get the career, but if you had to travel a lot or you had to do this, what other demands have to come in for that? Or do you have to work with a partner at work? It would be very demanding. But the Pluto to the Mercury is smart. It's one of the most intelligent aspects, Pluto Mercury, conjunction, square, and opposition. They're sharp. There's no bullshit. It's just sharp. And that's really good for astrology and for many other types of thinking. But like, he could be a designer, he could build things, he could study, but being the astrologer, thinking of studying astrology, we know these are students, so we know it's coming for astrology. It would be a wonderful addition to him because it would allow him to teach and have his principles and be talking about it. He could pull it off well and deal with the problems of people in relationships and the confrontations that come up. It would work very well for him. So this Mercury, it's the aspect of Pluto, it's harsh. He's a sharp thinker. So he's a demanding thinker, even though he has complicated scenarios. He cuts through them, he's thinking about whether they're going to be tested, but he's going to be thinking. This is his stress pattern. But that thinking he's got to live up to and act on. So it moves around like this. So, but to do so, to have his book, to be known for his ideas, to be able to talk to people, imagine for him to be able to teach or talk to people about what he knows and get respect for what he knows. That's the Mercury in the 10th house and the Gemini 10th house. And the Sun, even in Cancer, we have to, boy, that would, he's going to reinforce that Mercury. So that's not bad. It's not none of these are a question of good or bad. Just getting a question of the textures. Of course, in the relationship side, there's the Pisces and the relationship and the descendant. So the ascendant is how you project out. So when he is Pluto, he's not going to quick to project any difficulties or things. He's going to try and do these. He's intense to try and solve things himself. So he's not going to show what he's projecting, but he's going to be intense. He's not going to project that much. But on the descendant, he's going to take things in, how you respond to people. Other people, 7th, 8th, 9th house, give you feedback. You respond to them. And as soon as you take it personally, it goes below the horizon into the feeling quadrant. He has no planets there. But he has Pisces on the descendant. So even though he's very strict and busy and efficient at putting things out, his response to people and how he's very sensitive about what's right and wrong, what's good or bad, what's caring, what's helpful, was I helpful, was I not, did you like what I was doing? So if someone made him feel guilty, this would really have tremendous effect on his Neptune, Venus. It would challenge, it would be a really strong issue. So it's important for him to be doing everything right so his partner isn't thinking he's guilty, or so he doesn't get guilty feedback. So he's always going to try and do the best job he could, but very sensitive to anything not being right or not being good. And of course, with Pisces, there's going to be always mixed signals and complicated issues coming in. The boss and the people he's working with might be making demands in one way, and his wife might need things other way, and the kids might need some. There's always going to be a mix of things. It's going to be hard to live up to it all the time. This is an ongoing puzzle, just from that Pisces on the descendant. Okay, that Pisces is squared by Mercury. Just when I planned this, I got to adjust my thinking to this. I got to adjust it this way. Now, the Mercury in Gemini is adaptable. It can do it, but it's going to take a lot of effort. So as soon as he gets a plan, he's almost ready to start it. You can almost bet something's going to come up and add onto it that's going to change the initial plan or add on things to it. But that ruled by Jupiter is over in the 1st house, and the Jupiter is conjunct Uranus. It's an unconventional understanding. He has a way of breaking through and thinking differently. That's great for astrology, seeing things differently, seeing things from how he grew up in. He wants to form his own understanding, not just fit into a traditional situation. Okay, so the descendant doesn't oppose that. Ascendant's not, but it's ruled by the Jupiter. So the need to have a right understanding and to have innovative, to be following something different, and to be because it's in his 1st house, having a philosophy he identifies to or an understanding he identifies to. Once that's clicked in and he has his inner teaching, boy, he could go do 10 times more because of his inner teaching than before he finds that. He's just scrambling around with people. He's going to run into who's good, who's bad, what's right, what's wrong. And it'd be complicated. He's taking a thing. So it's important for him to be around good people so he gets good feedback, and important for him to be doing good things so he's not feeling guilty or complicated around his response. There'll always be, it's mutable sign, there'll always be different feedbacks and different guilt or this is good and this is complicated, this is guilty. He's going to have a package of things that are responding. Those things will motivate him, and he'll get a new understanding around it, and he'll go do things in his way. So there's a very unique stereotype here coming up on how the seesaw works, how he has to go do things and make things happen, but he's better at doing things than taking energy in. Getting the feedback, he's too sensitive. I tried so hard, I did everything I could, it wasn't enough. Oh, geez. How am I going to live up to this? But that's how he takes things in from other people. So he's very strong in other ways, but it would take a family member, the moon, or a partner, and as soon as they respond, he didn't do this, or Dad, you forgot it, but the school presentation, oh my goodness, like he's going to try and be on top of it all the time. And he's going to be so busy, there's hardly any time to relax. But the Pisces is the getting a right understanding of relationships and having some common belief in common. So one isn't guilty, one is having a common faith or belief in it. Wow, then it goes in and you get support for what you believe and what you're believing in. People start liking or appreciating for your understanding or for your dedication. That gives you good feedback, gets you hugs, and then it's easy to get up and work with people who like you or think you're kind. But if you're around bad people, and if you're working with someone, they don't give a damn, it's going to be really difficult to put up for it and be motivated. You're going to want out of there in a day. And there's battles would come up like this. So you have, that's a quick run in on the four angles, but you have them, the whole chart set up like it's sitting there, but just because you were born, when you were born, you're the answer to the universe. But every minute, every day, every week, every month, every year after you're born, your planets keep moving. They didn't stop just because you got them. They're anchored there in your natal chart. Wham, you got your DNA. But they keep moving, and the more they move, the older you get, the further they moved away from where they were at the beginning. And the older we are, the more effort it takes to be ourselves, to be true to ourselves. The more things are tempted us to pull us out and challenge our inner integrity. So he has an identity that wants a different understanding, a unique identity. He's motivated by the understanding. So no matter what he's doing, the undercurrent is he's got to see how it's leading him to what he wants to study, what he wants to learn, what he wants to know. So there's the puzzle. You wouldn't say, well, what kind of work you do? You don't see it exactly. He'll do all kinds of things. Gemini in the midheaven. Jack of all trades, maybe master of none, but you can see how astrology could come in as this meaningful undercurrent that guides him and reinforces what he's doing. And if he were the teacher of it and giving lectures and being able to talk to other people, that would work wonderfully. He would be a great counselor. He could talk to people in the most difficult situations and find solutions for them. Why? Because he's been in some of those most difficult situations and found solutions to them.